I guess you just got shovel around it so they can just plow the rest of it.
Well, and I don't think that, it was just a courtesy call to ask that it be removed. So I told this specific constituent that I believed there was a permit, I would look into it, and that we would get her a copy of the permit. So then it's at least on record, and then if it gets hit or damaged, then there's been a permit filed, and you know, I guess at that point the city would have to incur some liability if the appropriate permitting was provided.
We tabled.
But the only thing hanging up the process at this point is him to sign off on the audit. In speaking with him, my understanding was that that would be a pretty quick process for the 25 fiscal year, because it was very much similar to the 24 fiscal year. And once we got all that figured out and cleaned up, it should have been a pretty quick process. We've provided everything they've asked for at this point. So once that audit is done, we should be in compliance. I guess my only remaining question is that he would submit a request for an extension on our behalf. And in talking to the auditor's office last Friday, that had not been done. And I tried to get a hold of him and have not been able to. But
Okay.
So long as that audit can be done, we should be good. But at this point, I guess I don't know. This is all new territory to me, so I don't know what the statutory requirements of dissolution are exactly, if it can be fixed or if it has to be dissolved. I don't know.
So at the meeting today, Chief Thompson, I had mentioned to the Board of County Commissioners that I felt like when we set up the board that we kind of did the board a disservice, because I mean, we have the benefit of having professional staff that are accustomed to providing the appropriate paperwork. And you know, you're trying to be the chief of our town, Brian's trying to be the sheriff for our county. You guys have busy day jobs on top of incurring the responsibility of, and the Upton chief is in charge around their department. So it just seems like you guys would have been better served to have somebody that was accustomed to providing the paperwork and meeting the audit requirements. So we kind of mentioned that today. But they're bound by statute to move forward with the dissolution process, so maybe you can head them off, or maybe the board can head them off if that paperwork gets processed. But one thing the Board of County Commissioners did reference was they need a little bit more communication. Some of the other boards that are under scrutiny right now have been providing a little bit more regular contact, so then they're a little more comfortable with the communication they've been receiving. So if there was some way for the board to reach out to the county commissioners or talk to Clerk Hadlock, then maybe it would give them a better feeling. I don't know what it'll do at this point, but
Okay.
Was there any other questions for Chief or about the Joint Powers Board or dispatch board? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to item number 5, the sidewalk permit. So, council, I had a very uncomfortable conversation with a constituent today in regard to some items that were on the sidewalk. So Clerk Haggerty prepared no, it's not that one. No. Okay, Thank you. Before you is a copy of our ordinance in regard to, what's on the books currently for the sidewalk permitting. There was a question about some items that were on the sidewalk, and, there was a courtesy call that was placed to this, constituent, informing them that if there was some snow, if they could just remove the items from the sidewalk, and take them in their building, that it would be helpful, and then there was maybe they wouldn't get damaged by the snow removal equipment. So, this person got a little bit upset about that, and, the telephone conversation had to be, ended abruptly. I spoke with this constituent, and I told him I'd look into this. It seems that during the last, or kind of over the last year since I got elected as mayor, we had discussed this, and we had moved on, it was the streets committee. Streets recommended a quarterly fee of $25 to receive a permit to be able to put things on the sidewalk. And then one business owner had actually came and gotten a permit. But then we were gonna look into it a little bit deeper, and Chuck Bartlett, our former engineer, had some items. So Mayor owns, this is in the minutes for Monday, May 5th, 2025. Mayor owns reference to application for sidewalk encroachment. Engineer Chuck Bartlett recommended tabling this discussion so we could research past records for the planning and zoning board. So Tom Voss moved, Chris Kenny seconded to approve this recommendation regarding the current ordinance. A discussion regarding the current ordinance was had, and the motion carried. So we tabled it back in May, and then we haven't done anything with it since. So I think we're gonna have to.
So what are we talking about? What's the problem? Putting stuff out on the sidewalk?
Yeah, so this specific constituent, I told them that they could, if they wanted to have things on the sidewalk, that they could possibly come and purchase the permit
Right.
through the city.
Right.
And that we could get her a copy of the permit, and then she could,
And she was upset about that. Is that what you're saying?
she was upset, because she takes pride in the said item on the sidewalk. It's a place where you can donate to the needy, and then people can come and get the items and take them if they need them.
Okay.
So it's like a donation, it's like an exchange kind of thing. So she was upset because, the city employees didn't want to incur liability when they're trying to do their work and activities plowing the sidewalk and damage the stuff. So she was upset that she was asked to move it. And then,
So are we asking her to move it forever or when they plow?
I think it was a courtesy call just to ask that when it snows, that it be moved into the building. So it turned into a fight, but it also brings up another question. And I worked for the city shop for 8.5 years, and it used to be the business owner's responsibility to shovel in front of their own business. At some point, there was a handshake deal, or the city got involved and does it as a courtesy for the community, and we come and clean off the sidewalk when it snows.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yeah,
just the 3 blocks of Main Street.
the 3 blocks of Main Street, excuse me, yeah, that's, thank
Sorry,
you.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
yeah, we need to clarify. that.
Yeah, that was an important clarification. So we do this as a service to the community to make our Main Street look nice, clean the snow off the sidewalk. But sometimes it gets to be cumbersome when we have uncomfortable discussions or,
Certain people do their own shoveling.
yeah,
Is
this
that a problem?
specific,
Why can't you shovel around or?
That's what I'm just saying. Well,
How do I plow, Mr. Mayor, if I may?
I know, one and the
How do I
skip
plow
and
this
then
person
another
and
one,
not
yeah.
this person and this person and not this person? It's too difficult to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
hit and miss stuff like that on Main Street.
How far out on the sidewalk is this thing?
I don't know, it's a
Right next to the
little
footprint
shelf
of the building.
and it probably sticks out about a foot, I would imagine.
It's right next to the footprint of the building.
Why can't you just go out, shovel around it so they can just plow the rest of it?
Well, and I don't think that, it was just a courtesy call to ask that it be removed. So I told this, specific constituent that, I believed there was a permit, I would look into it, and that we would get her a copy of the permit. So then it's at least on record, and then if it gets hit or damaged, then, there's been a permit filed and, I guess at that point, the city would have to incur some liability if the appropriate permitting was
We
provided.
tabled the permit and we didn't do anything about it. There is no permit.
We could
The
have
minutes reflect that the council passed a $25 permit fee for
Well,
quarterly.
we did,
So-
okay.
I'm not, what I'm confused on is, so if, I get that there's a courtesy call and it's, obviously it's an admirable thing to have that for the media, I get that, but it's an obstruction that Public Works has to use. She could go in and get a permit for it, and then basically everything would be fine from there on out, unless you have something to say about that, Greg.
Except for it's still on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, it's just like the benches we put out in the summertime on the sidewalks. We put benches out there for everybody to sit. We pull them off in the wintertime, so they're not encumbering us to do our job. Things like that get in the way, things like that get damaged. We hit a couple, 3 different items on different buildings, water spigots sticking out from buildings, stuff like this. The concern was that we would accidentally hit it, or, I'm sorry, there's times when it's snowing, you can't see everything that's going on in front of you. I know it seems ridiculous, but I've done this for 20-some years. It happens. We didn't want to damage her stuff. We did not want to cause issue with damaging it. That's the whole purpose of it. Just like we asked, just like we removed the park benches off Main Street, this is similar. So we can do our work, so we can do this. Was it a big item? No, but it's gonna leave a trail of snow next to the building, right by her. That clarifies.
maybe a little bit of history, I guess, back behind it. Like you said, it was like a handshake back in the day. If I remember right, when we redid the Main Street and the state come in and redid all the sidewalks, the street and everything, we wanted to make sure how we keep downtown, how we try to help promote more downtown once we got everything redone. It was decided then that the city crew would go and do the first snow removal in the morning. That was only the first time. After that, it was up to the responsibility of each storefront owners to clear it. As a courtesy of trying to help revitalize Main Street is where that came from.
Mr. Mayor, if I may expand on that. When we didn't do it, we would have significant ice buildup in the parking areas. So then we have to go down there at some point and try to remove the ice. And we try to remove ice underneath parked cars. So the brilliant idea was to flood the street with water. Stand in water when it's freezing cold for about 8 hours a day. I'd rather clean the sidewalk. It was so we could actually get the stuff off the sidewalk, out of the gutters, to the center of the street, so we would stay clean.
So is it okay if she has it out there today because it's not snowing? When it snows, she needs to bring it in, is that what we're saying?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, yes, that would be appreciated.
I think that's okay.
I think that should be a courtesy to us and a
Yeah.
benefit to helping them due to the snow. There shouldn't be an issue of, well, I want it out there.
Right.
Could
I
we
don't want to
amend,
move it.
could we amend our ordinance about, liability? Put it on the storekeeper's truck, their fault if they have something on the sidewalk.
I mean, you could amend it that way, but as of right now, the ordinance makes it illegal to have anything out on the sidewalk. That's the whole purpose of the ordinance.
Without a permit.
Without a permit, yes. And upon proper application and motion in front of the council, which is what we just discussed, which would have been in all likelihood the kind of the proper way to go about this, then the council would either accept or deny the application and we'd be moving forward on it. I can amend it to make exceptions, but I suspect that there's probably a bit of a slippery slope to that.
So many exceptions in there that we'll never cover.
Okay, so everybody has a copy of the ordinance, if you'd all like to look at it. And then I could read it for the public since you don't have a copy. Section 22-3, obstructing passage on roadway, etc., exception. A, it shall be unlawful for any person to obstruct any roadway, alley, or sidewalk in the city in such a manner as to interfere with the passage of any vehicle or person along such roadway, alley, or sidewalk, provided, however, that upon written application, the governing body of the city may by motion grant a permit to an applicant, allowing the applicant to obstruct that section of sidewalk directly in front of premises owned, leased, rented, or otherwise lawfully possessed by the applicant if the proposed obstruction, 1, does not reasonably interfere with the pedestrians using the sidewalk nor endanger the health, safety, or welfare of the public, and 2, benefits the public in general. B, issuance of said permit is completely discretionary and no right thereto is conferred by this section or any other section of this code. Said permit may be limited in duration or in any other manner deemed appropriate by the governing body of the city. So we did pass one for $25 quarterly. Item number 2, it says benefits the public in general. She's providing charity to the citizens in our town by having her items on there. You know, it's basically a little goodwill bench for people to get items out of and put items into. So there could be an argument there that it does benefit the public in general. But I just don't know, sometimes when we get these curveballs thrown at us, it's a damned if we do, damned if we don't type thing. So some people are gonna, you know, think that we're horrible monsters if we ask a business owner to move things. And then some people are gonna tell us that we're horrible monsters if we don't allow them to put things on the sidewalk. So I'm up for, is there any discussion, any further discussion on this right now, council? Do I take the business owner a permit tomorrow and provide it for them? Or what's the will of the council? I don't know.
Did she pay $25?
She doesn't have a
It
permit.
hasn't been.
What?
She doesn't have a permit.
Oh, okay, that's cut and dry. If she doesn't come and get a permit and this council pass it, she's gotta get her stuff off the sidewalk. That's what the law is.
I think there
That's
needs
what
to
it
be
says.
something in that
Just
permit
give her a copy
process
of that.
It still needs to be moved out of the way for cleaning sidewalks.
I'm gonna say this,
Even with the permit.
you can't believe how many times I watched your crew try to clear out snow in front of the antlers. Remember the ice cream cone there
Oh, yeah.
and all that stuff? They shouldn't even attempt to clear that sidewalk. They should just stop, go around it, take off. What a waste of time.
That's not a bad idea. Just don't do hers.
Oh,
Yeah, that gets into it.
And then we get a suit for that,
Get into a what?
huh? A lawsuit if somebody slips on the snow that we didn't remove. I don't know.
Is that true?
The business.
If the sidewalks are slick?
I don't,
I took a digger down in front of the clinic this year.
I don't think we have any sort of ordinance
So
codification.
what are you gonna do? Are these guys gonna assault the road or the sidewalks or what?
No,
I think there's,
Okay,
I think there's a state ordinance saying that in the wintertime, reasonable, traction, be careful. If you slip and fall, it's not the property owner's fault.
Is there a statute? Would you research?
I can do some research on it. The thing with that is it wouldn't be exclusive to just 3 blocks. So, I'll take a look at it, but council, the thing that I'm just pointing out here is we don't have a permit in front of us.
Yeah.
So unless we want to amend the ordinance, which would be fine, I can do that. But until we have that permit in front of us for the application for it, we can't make any decision
Right.
other than abiding by what the ordinance and the law says at this point in time.
That's right.
but there's nothing on the books that requires the city to remove snow either. And is there anything on the books that requires the business owner to remove the snow? Because the business owner does not own the sidewalk.
I don't recall on the business owner
I
side
think
of it.
the sidewalk ordinance, even though the residential didn't own the sidewalk, once it's been put in place, then it's up to the owner's responsibility to keep it clean.
And are you sure we got an ordinance for that?
We have an ordinance that says that it falls on the business owner to repair and replace their sidewalk.
Mr. Mayor, I believe it says adjacent landowner is what it says. So it doesn't really identify business versus residential. It's just the adjacent.
The adjacent landowner.
So if you're leasing, you don't have to do anything.
The landowner has to.
Correct.
It actually says occupied, occupant premises.
All right, council, so we don't have a permit in front of us. So maybe we table this discussion until the next meeting, when we have a copy of the permit in front of us. So, do we entertain a motion to table, and then we'll pick this discussion up under old business at the next council meeting?
Since we don't have the thing in front of us, why do we need to table it?
Okay, well, that's a good point, Councilman Boss, so I'll just bring it up at the next council meeting, under, mayor council member reports, or old business, okay. All right, is there any other discussion on this topic? It was a doozy. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to department head reports. Item number 1, Police Chief Derek Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first item, the calls for service between January 30th and February 13th. Newcastle Police Department, 175, made 1 custodial arrest and issued 10 criminal citations. Weston County Sheriff's Office, 78, Upton Police Department, 105. Newcastle Volunteer Fire Department, 4. Weston County Fire Protection District, 15, 13 of which were controlled burns. Upton Volunteer Fire Department 0, Newcastle Ambulance 28. 19 of those were in Newcastle, 9 were ambulance transfers from the hospital. Weston County 6, Upton 2, Osage 1, and Upton Ambulance 3. My second item is just to let you know we will be participating in the Newcastle High School Career and Trade Fair tomorrow, February 18th. And my third item, I have been in contact with the Code Compliance Department from the City of Gillette in reference to providing a presentation we previously spoke about. They are willing to do so, and they requested some possible dates that we would like that presentation to be done. Is there any specific dates that would work better for the council than others?
It'd probably be good, Chief, just to have it as a workshop or a presentation prior to the next, or
Not the next.
the following. The second meeting in March, maybe, before the council.
Okay. And so we would do that at,
Okay.
would that be at 6 PM? Would that be when we want to do that? Okay.
I think when we had that discussion, Chief, they said that they could probably present that in about 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I was putting
Yeah.
words into some of the council's mouth earlier, so I don't.
Not the next meeting, but the one thereafter, you're thinking? Is it-
Probably, sooner rather than later, let's go, the
Okay.
first meeting in March.
I already wrote down the second.
My last item, I would like to request a police committee meeting to discuss a possible MOU between the sheriff's office and the police department. This is to help cover instances when the sheriff's office needs assistance from us outside of the city, to cover some liability issues and things of that nature. Is there any dates that would work for I'm assuming police committee would be the best option to start with?
Would you need to be there, Dublin?
Yeah, I think I should be there.
I think so
Let me
too.
draft it.
I think so too.
I'd rather you be there too.
Just have your meeting with Dublin.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay,
I'm open for.
I'm open, whatever you like.
Was there a day of the week you guys prefer?
Monday or
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Wednesday, or Thursday.
Monday or Tuesday of next week would be good.
You good anywhere?
I
Councilman
can
Simpson?
Thursday.
How about Tuesday, the 24th,
Okay.
and a time?
5 maybe?
5? Okay.
Good deal, okay.
Some people have to work all day.
Who?
It's your fault, Rick.
Sorry, Dylan, I'm gonna keep leaving you. Was
You
that
know,
right
I'm
for you as
getting
well?
towards retirement.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock, so I won't have anything going on.
Okay. And shall we meet here in the front room?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is all I have for the moment.
okay, is there any further questions for Chief? Go ahead.
I do, just want to thank you, I guess, on looking at that garbage issue complaint that we had for Sage Circle again. Looking at that area over there, it doesn't look like it's gotten any better.
No?
Seems like it's getting worse over in that area. Gotten other complaints through our Facebook page, residents over there complaining it's not getting taken care of. I know you've issued citations before and they went to court before, but I'm not sure what else in that area can be done. They did ask about, you know, can they extend that over to the landowner? So I know you said you're gonna look into that.
Yeah,
See
and
what our options are.
I forgot to do so, but, that is one of the things that I think we need to maybe look at going a different route with that. When, the mayor and I went and talked with Gillette, they have a procedure for abatement of those types of issues for people that just don't comply. And, I think that would be something at least good to look at, when they're non-compliant, once you've given them notices and given them citations and those sorts of things, and they still haven't remedied the issue. My understanding between speaking with them and then seeing the presentation that they will provide, they sent me a copy of the PowerPoint that they utilize. They talk about that in there where certain properties are added to an abatement list, and contractors, I believe they sign up for being, it's almost like having a wrecker on rotation. Like the next contractor gets the next abatement issue type of thing, or can bid it, or however they do it. That way we can have somebody go in and clean it up, and then those fees are somehow collected from there. Now, that all sounds really good coming out of my mouth, I suppose, but in theory and in practice, obviously, are two different things, and there may be some legwork to get to that point, but that would be probably a whole lot more efficient way of skinning that cat, and just keep issuing citations that are seemingly not very effective.
It's just so frustrating to try to leverage getting someone to do the right thing, and then they just keep thumbing their tooth at us, and they don't do the work. And our community is impacted by the slovenliness.
It absolutely is.
So it's getting to be such a frustrating deal, chief, that we have to figure out some way to force their hand, because this just is completely unacceptable.
I agree.
Doesn't make it hard for them, I mean, it has to hurt, or
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen.
And I know with the complaints that come in before, and I've, gotten the communication back and forth to each other to try to take care of that. And I drove by there to go look at it, because sometimes when people
Right,
tell us things,
Right.
they are not exactly what they tell you.
right.
But I drove by there and looked it over, and then drove by again, and this, yeah, it's not getting any better.
Hopefully we can, come up with a better way of dealing with those things through, information we gather from other communities and how they do stuff, and then hopefully we get some contractors that wanna do that type of stuff, so.
Is there any further questions for chief?
I do. I have a citizen come to my house Sunday. He was out walking and a dog chased him. And one of the officers on duty seen him, the incident happened, and he had to verbally yell at the officer to get out of the vehicle because he wouldn't get out. And he said he couldn't do anything about the dog chasing him. Why can't we do anything about that? There's ordinance about running dogs loose.
That was one of the newest officers. I would have to ask him what the circumstances were there. There shouldn't be any reason if that exact set of circumstances you just described it did in fact occur, there shouldn't be any reason why we couldn't do something about that, especially if the dog's chasing him. So I'll have to speak with him and see what exactly went on there.
He said another time, he was up running underneath the railroad tracks, the emergency thing, he was running through there, and a car come through and hit him. And
It hit him.
hit him, and the officer didn't do anything about it. He contacted the dispatcher and nothing happened.
car should have been in there.
There's so many cars that take that, you have no
I
idea.
know, I've seen it under here. I used to work under there, remember?
And it's trespassing.
Yeah, it is.
On
Big
federal,
sign.
it's federal trespassing.
Did he say when that occurred?
No, he didn't.
If you would like to call and speak with me about that, I can try to see if I can figure something out.
Okay, I can have him call him, or you could call him, I'll tell you his name afterwards.
Okay.
Any further questions for Chief Thompson? Hearing none, thank you, Chief. We'll move on to item number 2, Attorney Dublin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just to piggyback off of the Sage Circle issue, I believe that we have a bench trial on that matter coming up in March. Should be March 13th, I believe, so. But yeah, obviously the civil side of it probably would be more efficient, so I think you and I have talked about this in the past, and we can look into that a little bit more. This is kind of just a notice to really the citizens of Newcastle. As of recently, and it coincides with the hiring of the new CSO, we have been getting a much larger amount of parking tickets. So I just wanted to make sure that the citizens are kind of on note of the fact that I don't know how often parking tickets were given out in the past. I didn't have any during the entire time that I was here, but now there are many being passed out. The other thing I wanted to apprise the council of is that I have not heard back from the VOA on the title issue that they're having. I suspect that there's going to be either a deed found or there won't be, but I will apprise the council and update them as that comes out. That's all I have.
Is there any questions for Attorney Hughes? Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3. Thanks, Dalton. Clerk Treasurer Stacy Haggerty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only things I have is I wanted to make sure the council received the email with the Weston County plans that I forwarded. And if anybody wants a full copy, let me know and I'll print them.
Don't you dare.
I do have a full copy in the city hall office.
Save the city some money, don't print it.
And then also Gilbert had sent me an email also about a shelter training, and he doesn't have a date yet, but I will make sure you guys all are aware if you wanted to attend that. And then just, does anybody have questions on any of the financial reports?
Any questions for Stacy?
On the claims, not the other financial reports, there's a claim against us tonight for $14,800 for some kind of medical thing, and then it says snap jug or something on it, and I thought, is that just a big can of Coors or what, I didn't understand it, what it was.
Oh, snap charge cylinders,
Yeah,
that is a fire department item.
$14,800 worth
Municipal
of them.
services. If you have any idea, Donnie, for snap charge
There have been
cylinder?
some SCBA bottles, stuff that we've had to hydro. I don't know what the snap charge.
I can definitely check with, Chief Curran would have brought this invoice in, and I can inquire about that.
Okay, I just didn't understand what that was. Big can of Coors.
Might be related to all the hydro testing that we had to do for SCBA bottles.
Any further questions? Fire department's still operating in their budget, right, Stacy?
Yes.
Okay. Works, thanks. Public Works Supervisor Greg Stump.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first item, we did finally find a pneumatic tire roller. We were working with TransSource out of Castleton for it. I would recommend purchasing the roller. It's $63,328.
Yeah, that's cheaper than, that's better than the one we had before in Denver.
Yes, the other one was $74,000, that was without freight, they were talking $5,000 for freight. The $63,328 includes freight.
Does the council entertain a motion to purchase the pneumatic roller?
Definitely, I move that we purchase the pneumatic roller, yes.
We have a second. We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Well, this is an exciting thing, it's getting on the way to having our own crew and our own equipment to chip and spray our streets. This has gotta be done, man. This is moving forward to help the city.
Is that a quality check piece of equipment?
Yeah, I actually,
Used.
I drove the buildings. It was a rental unit, that's actually what they did, is they rented it to municipalities and counties to do chip seals and different things like that. I talked to them about renting it, and they said the problem they have is, unless you rent it 2 years to 3 years in advance, you're not gonna get it when you're gonna want it. So, everybody seems to do their chip seals at about the same time.
How old is it?
It's a 2017 Volvo PTR 240,
How many hours are on it?
916 hours.
It's like brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay.
Thank you, council.
Motion carries.
My next item, Zachary Benshoff has completed his probationary period. I recommend Zachary Benshoff for permanent employment and a 50-cent raise for completing probation, effective January 8th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Keep our employees.
Is it?
That's it.
You second it? Okay. Is there any discussion? No, okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, council. My next item in the interview is Lawson Liggett. We've reviewed his references and completed his pre-employment screenings. I would request the council to offer a position to Lawson Liggett at a starting rate of $18 per hour with a 1-day probationary period.
What name
One
did you
day.
say?
Or 1 year, sorry. My apologies, 1 year probationary period.
Lawson Liggett? Is he related to the other Liggett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
There's one right there.
Oh, there's one right there.
They're all over.
Well, I move that we hire Mr. Liggett at a permanent basis
1 year probation.
and with 1 year probation. And what else? I mean, $18 an hour. Then, do they get it all?
Yep.
Okay. Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
One that's not permanent. Right now.
Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. We just hired Lawson Leggett to work for the city.
I would like to request a water sewer committee meeting to discuss a few items. I was looking at sometime later next week, if the water committee is available. I can put out an email, some dates and times.
If you can, I'd like to keep it to Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, if you can.
That may be rough.
Well,
Might be able to do it Monday.
well, Monday's kind of okay too, as long as we're not having to meet here.
Not Tuesday the 24th.
Tuesday, we're meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Tuesday the 24th, that's
Yeah.
right, Bill, we got a meeting that day.
Wednesday, I have an all-day meeting. I'll be gone. So
Now, you left me a message about a meeting on the 18th.
that was my next item.
Okay.
Just want to remind the street committee about the meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. My next item, we made arrangements to hang the banner at the backyard park Thursday at 10 a.m.
We're gonna hang it on Thursday.
Yep.
It's below zero that day.
What's that?
So, Don, being that you're an employee of the Wyoming Refining Company, could you relay a message? I received a text this evening, to invite Par Pacific to the banner hanging. And then, it sounded like they were gonna email Nicole McFarland. Okay. It's been a long time coming, and we needed to, get this banner hung and give some credit.
This Thursday?
Yes.
At 11?
10.
10. Oh.
If we need to revisit it because of weather, we can.
Yeah, the high 16 and it's supposed to snow, which is, I know you work in the weather.
It's Wyoming winter, what do you expect?
I know. I'm a fair weather person.
So Councilman Stevenson, if Park Pacific can't show up or we decide to,
I'll mention that at our morning meeting.
if we decide to move it because of weather, I'll let you know. That's all I have.
Is there any questions for Public Works Supervisor Stump?
Another question.
Go ahead.
On the earlier discussion, about the penny tax, and you're gonna make up a list of items, you and I have discussed several times over the past few years of the condition of our city shops. Is this the time maybe to get something on the list there, to start putting some money away to rebuild our city shops? I think they were built in 1812.
Not quite that old. Mr. Mayor, to answer, we can include that. We were primarily sticking to street projects, drainage projects, stuff like that. But we could definitely look at doing something like that.
I think that as long as we get something started on those city shops, so that we're putting money away and we're getting something done about it, we can have it someday. And you can actually get a truck in one of the bays. That's all I have. I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions for Public Works Supervisor? Hearing none, thanks, Chris. We'll move on to item number 5, Engineer Stephen Dietrich.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have a short report for today, this evening rather, the building department, residential construction projects, permits and inspections. We have 6 active projects over the last 2-week period. You can see there 2 mechanical plumbing permits, 1 roof, 1 mobile home set, 1 siding, and 1 fence. On the commercial construction projects front, there's nothing to report there. The Dollar General is nearing its ultimate completion and being able to maybe open sometime this spring. I have not been given a date to on the construction costs and permitting fees, for the permits we just talked about in the last 2 weeks, total construction cost is $18,032. And the permit fees collected associated with that was $534.43. And that's all I had to report.
Is there any further questions for Engineer Dietrich? Hearing none, thank you. We'll move on to the claims against the city dated February 17th, 2026.
Your Honor, I move that we offer compensation to those suppliers and purveyors who have offered a proper invoice to our city clerk.
We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any
Yeah, well-
discussion?
Stacy, what was that one thing I asked about? Something to do with a spinner? What's a spinner? An embroidery spinner.
For the fire department.
I heard that one.
I can inquire
It's in the,
about
it's in the claims. You didn't see that?
It's, what is it, $400?
I don't remember.
embroidery by Sue Ellen, wind spinners.
Wind spinners, yeah.
Oh, that was the gifts that were given out to the wives during the sweethearts party that they put on every year for the wives, even have them put up with us. So that
What is a wind spinner?
They're what it is, a wind spinner that's cut into a design.
You go on a hat or something?
No, they hang up in the yard on it, that spin that.
Oh.
You know that commercial with the little bear reaching out?
So it's got the multi-fire cross on it.
I don't drink what you do, so
Set
I don't know.
outside the spin on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do know what that is.
A wind spinner.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries.
I know. Yeah, I'm probably still in, we want to get. Grab
No, we
popcorn.
don't have to meet. no.
Grab popcorn.
So what, we're off the air, aren't we?
No,
Not on the
I
record.
haven't asked for
Oh, I thought we were done.
a motion to adjourn yet, sorry.
Oh, you did?
Oh, man, we're getting crazy. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
All
I
right,
second it. Ann got the suit, she got the movement.
okay, so there's a motion properly seconded, we adjourned at 8:40.